Hello, everyone. My name is Neil Perkins. I am here for your ConnectWise Mastery Series for Business Management. As we're getting through for today, we'll do our quick little intro slides. We'll kind of go over our pieces, make sure that everybody knows who you're talking to, and then we'll get into answering those questions because obviously that's why we're here today. So first and foremost, my name is Neil Perkins. I'm a software training consultant here at ConnectWise. I'm based out of our Tampa office, and I do specialize in those business management solutions tools. I spent my last 8 years here at ConnectWise over on the PSA consulting team, primarily handling implementations and the virtual admin side of things. One of the things that became my absolute favorite feature while I was working over there is that help button in the upper right-hand corner, that question mark icon that you see there. It'll take you directly to whichever documentation for the page that you're already on. So definitely something I thought was very unique, very cool. Always something I tried to show partners that I was using. So with me today, I have Cindy Reed. Go ahead and let her tell all of you a little bit about herself.
Hi, good morning. My name's Cindy Reed. I'm based out of Kingston, Ontario, Canada. I'm specialized in the business management solutions. I've been at ConnectWise for about 14 months, but for 3.5 years prior to that, I worked at an MSP in Kingston where I am. I have about 35 years of senior level executive experience. I have an executive MBA from Western University, the Richard Ivey School of Business, a Six Sigma and Lean Processing certificate. And I played hockey for Team Canada in 1978 before women's hockey was even sanctioned. And I currently billet an OHL player.
That's really cool. All right. Also with us today, we do have Vikas Taylor from our product team. Vikas, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hey, hi everyone. I'm Vikas Salo, a product manager here. I'm working on reimagining existing project module, and I'm currently based out of India. And right now, working on reimagining the dispatch portal, something which our partners are regularly asking for. So we are working on that. Thank you.
Yeah, very, very excited to see that. All right, so quick reminder, today's topic is project management. We're gonna go ahead, we have a couple of prepared questions for you, just kind of get the ball rolling. As we're going through that, feel free to start dropping your questions in that question section there over on the GoToWebinar. We're gonna be going through those as soon as we start seeing some of those fill up. While you start typing those in, we do have a couple things we wanna start with here. So first one we've got is what makes something a project? I feel like this is definitely a question I've heard in the past. Cindy, I feel like this is one you probably get a lot over there in partner success as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you really need to, in order to streamline your organization, you need to make sure that your processes and procedures are consistent. So along with that, you need to create a project definition. What is a project? So, you know, the definition is all yours, but some general guidelines, you know, you could say if it takes more than 4 hours, because you don't want that ticket sitting on the help desk board and tying it up, or if it stretches over several days. If it has more than one technician involved, there's going to need some coordination that has to take place between them. Or if it impacts more than a couple of people at an organization. So it might be a small piece of work, but it's going to have a big impact. So those things you might want to have a better oversight on. So you could say right from the get-go, that's what makes a project. The other stuff can be a service ticket. And then consistently follow that.
Excellent. Would you say billing potentially could also fall into that if there's a certain way that you want to bill something?
Certainly, because you have more options with the project in terms of progress billing, for example, that you could utilize. So that would make a difference as well if you needed to do some of those progress billing. Fixed fee is fine because it's going to apply to both your project and your service ticket. And if it is a service ticket, and it's a fixed fee, it's going to be contained in its own invoice. So it makes it quite easy to identify that piece of work to your client. Yeah.
No, awesome. I think that's a good one. The other one that I wanted to make sure that we talked on real quick, as I'm starting to see some questions start to roll into that questions pod there, is what is the best way to set up and use a project template?
So project templates are awesome. They're really, really great. What they allow you to do, and the best way to do it, what I did, is make them very small. So make them isolated pieces of work. So it might be implementing a NAS, installing a switch, you know, putting in a server, email transition. Make them small enough that they're isolated to a particular piece of work. Go in and put your budgeted hours in. This is where you can get some collaboration with your tech team. How long does this normally take? Don't worry about trying to get it absolutely down to the second, the first time out. Have a general idea as to what it normally takes based on some discussions. The advantage of doing that and the way that I utilize them is that rather than when the salesman had a scope document and was putting the quote together, but wasn't quite at the point of one understanding what the labor was, being able to take that scope document, very easily build out a project skeleton by pulling in all the different project templates that you already have there that have the budgeted time. You pull them into a skeleton project. It's going to give you at the top what your budgeted hours are to execute that whole project. Then you can have a quick conversation with your service manager to say, are there any differences with this particular client? Anything we need to account for? You know, maybe they're rural and they've got a really slow internet connection. So there's some things that you're going to do before you go on site with the equipment. Any number of things. Take a look at the number of users that are impacted, times those individual tasks based on the number of users. And ultimately, by the end of that discussion, you've got your project plan built out, you've got your estimated hours. So when you quote on a fixed fee, you're going to be profitable. And you've had your service team involved, so you've got commitment on both sides that this is reasonable. And it's not a situation where sales is promising something that service can't deliver. And then importantly, make sure that you've got a project template for project closing. I had one for project opening that went on every project that had that meeting as part of the project. Project closing, to do a post-implementation review. That's your opportunity to take a look at whether the project was indeed profitable. Take a look at the individual tickets that were in there and what your budgeted time was, and compare it to your actual. If it's too high or too low, was this just a one-off and it's normally an hour, but this was some sort of odd circumstance? Were there things that drove out the time? Like, you know, oh yeah, we got to remember to get the printer password or something ahead of time because we spent a lot of time running around trying to find that while we were at the client site doing the install. Add those things to the templates, adjust your time. It'll just make your next project forecast be that much more accurate.
Oh, that sounds great. Definitely something that when I was in consulting, I was always kind of pushing people towards really making the most out of their project templates, because it can save you so much time and add just so much consistency to how you're building those out.
Yeah. Another tip is that if you have ticket templates within a project, you can pull in ticket templates into a project as well. So you can't do it the other way around. So if it is something that you could be using in projects or in service tickets for that particular template, you can build it in a service ticket template and then utilize it in a project template.
You know, that's a great tip. That's one that I didn't always remember to remind people that they were able to do.
And some of the work that they're doing within the new environment, it's really great in the templates. They are so much easier to build, and adding those dependencies and some of the additional functionality that they're putting in there for ASIO is awesome. It'll just make them that much better.
That's really good. Okay, so we do have a bunch of questions that have started to pour in, which is great. This one might be more for you, Vikas. We've got one that's asking, when will the new project module be available for ConnectWise PSA for on-prem? Do we have any ideas on that one?
So
or is that something
we
we
are
need to
still working on that.
Okay.
We are still working on that. Like it's not finalized the date, but the dates are not finalized yet. And right now it's the cloud focused, and we are actively actually evaluating that. So
Okay.
no timeline actually for that right now.
Gotcha. Okay. Samantha's got one. Something I noticed is that when I get added to a net new project, I don't get any kind of email notification to indicate I've been added. as a resource or a lead on a project? Is there a setting or something within ConnectWise PSA that I'm missing? My question, I guess, on this would probably start with, are you the one who's assigning yourself, or are you being assigned by someone else? I know PSA by default tends to ask if you want to alert someone that they've been assigned to someone, but not if you're assigning yourself, is one of the pieces I've seen there. The other is it could be as simple as they uncheck the box to have it send you an email. I know I usually did that from a dispatch standpoint. I wouldn't have it email every single person every time they were added to something like that. So there's a couple of different potential things that could be causing that, I guess, is my answer to you. We'd probably need a little bit more detail to dig too deep on that one. Unless there's something that comes to mind on your side, Cindy, that I might have missed.
No. I mean, it's, you know, it's all about communication, right? When you're doing projects and stuff. So yeah, if it's not getting an automatic, take a look, you know, dig into it, utilize your PSM, have a conversation, take a look at your particular environment and how you're using it, and then they can help draw out any additional suggestions.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow, a lot of questions now. All right. James, if you could throw me some additional details. I see that you've got project building / page building, actual / projected. If you give me a little bit more details on that, I should be able to answer that. Charlie asked, is there a combined dispatch portal that shows both service and project tickets that need to be scheduled or attention by the dispatcher? It should, if you utilize the bottom half of that. When you go through the drop down there on the dispatch portal, you should be able to change it to an all situation, if I remember correctly. I'm pulling it up right now to make sure that I'm not completely just fabricating stuff. But if I remember correctly, when you have the and service board piece at the bottom, you should be able to say all tickets on that. Actually, no, I was incorrect on that one. I was thinking of the my tickets, not that one. It looks like you would still need to switch back and forth between the service dispatch and the project dispatch up at the top there. So like here, assuming everybody can, wow, Windows 11 is new and shiny. Assuming everybody can still see the screen I've got here, what you're going to be looking for is this drop down. This is kind of what I've got. Unfortunately, I don't have a way to combine these currently, unless that's something that we're working on moving forward. For right now, you'd still need to switch this piece. You should still be able to see in the dispatch portal what's scheduled, but in terms of what needs to be, it's usually going to be a switch back and forth between the two. It is something that could be worth either throwing in the virtual community or something like that as something to ask for moving forward, but right now it is still split. Obviously you can see your different help desks, but this isn't actually showing me any of my project boards, unfortunately. All right, Alan asks, will we be adding any functionality to export time entries from projects? Currently you can export the time entry and ticket number, but it does not include notes from the entry. I have not heard anything about any specific updates to exporting time entries out like that. The only way that I've ever seen to do it would be to potentially run like a time style report. You could potentially do something like that in Report Writer, but I mean, that's going to come down to if that's a tool you're comfortable with. Or of course, if you have your database connected as like a Power BI, but as of right now, would probably be something in the custom reporting vein that I would expect, unless there's a report or something that I'm not thinking about, Cindy, to get the time information out.
Well, getting the time, as you said, like you can get the time, the budgeted versus the actual, but to get all the notes, you're not going to get that. I would think as well that probably the best place to look is under the time and expense reporting.
Okay.
And pull it out by there. I don't know if there's one. There is one, project hours by date, but I don't know. I'd have to take a look at it and click the question mark and
gotcha.
See what it tells me.
Yeah, that's my usual trick too. Is just what fields is it going to grab for me? And there we go. Like, of course, it doesn't want to load as fast as I want it to. So I mean, this does look like it's I mean, that does look like potential notes in there. Let's see, where is it grabbing the phase/activity piece from? That might be the phase in the specific ticket, actually, is what it looks like from reading through this. So I think that's the problem here is, again, this doesn't look like it's going to include the notes. It looks like it's just got what ticket was this put on. So I think, unfortunately, where this is going to point everybody is going to end up being the custom reporting on this in the short term. You might be able to go to like the time tab on the project specifically, and actually pull something out there. Potentially, if you have export capabilities, that might give you that information. It's one that I haven't done recently enough to know if it's going to actually pull exactly what you're looking for, is my only concern. But that's the only other thing I would potentially try there.
And if you do use a separate, a segregated work type for your projects, like maybe you actually have projects, anything that falls outside of just a typical support, then your time detail report, you can isolate out on your work role or your work type. But again, it won't give you just a particular project.
Gotcha.
But if you export it from there, do your report to Excel, export it, and then maybe sort it from that perspective, that might be an alternative as well.
Gotcha. All right, so Mary asked, is there a project checklist built in versus opening a ticket with templates for each item of a phase? I mean, I think that sounds probably close to a project template. If you've looked at project templates and that's not what you're looking for, there's not a ton outside of that I feel like we can kind of offer for anything sort of pre-built or like here's an entire project in one place. That could be something that is worth reaching out to partner success potentially about to kind of discuss if you have something specific that you're looking for on that. But project templates are the primary way we're going to kind of see you pre-fill some of those projects. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you've got a project that you absolutely, like you've built it with your templates, you've got everything there, you've got your budgeted time, you've got your dependencies, you've got all of that in there, and that's a project that you kind of do most of the time. So it's got multiple pieces in it, but that would be a typical project. You can save once you've built the project, before you start putting time in it, actual time, go ahead and save that as a template itself. And then you can, if that's kind of typical, but maybe one section is going to be not in one customer's project, or you just need to add or massage another section, you can start with that as your project template. You can even create a project template for your project opening and add your tasks that you want to be able to do to create your project. You're going to have your meeting, you're going to build your templates, you're going to, and make a project template to keep track of a checklist of the things that you want to do within a project.
No, that's a good idea. All right. Is it possible to change the duration period from 1 day to an hour? I believe it is currently set to where the smallest it'll go is what you're seeing there, where it won't go shorter than an entire day. Vikas, is that something that you guys are continuing into the reimagination screens with that duration? Is that something that you've looked at making shorter, or is that built in as it's going to be 1 day?
Duration is right now 1 day.
Okay.
What we have in innovation, if I tell you, is like, we are going to provide capability that you can have multiple dependencies. We are working on that. And in templates, we have innovated, like you can actually add duration and dependencies in Reimagine project module. So the moment you import those duration and dependencies, your estimated schedule is right away created based on today's date. So that has been very useful for partners who are using the Reimagine project module.
Okay. All right. James is asking about required phases before starting a next phase. Now, I know that you can set that up when you're building dependencies. Usually, I know when I had one ticket dependent on another, it wouldn't let you save it, but it didn't really stop you from starting work on it necessarily. You just kind of needed to pay attention. If you could, a little further down the chat, potentially give us some additional details of what you're looking for out of a required phase, we can see if we can get to that a little further down. And obviously, we pull the questions out of this and see if we can do anything with them later as well. Okay, Lauren asks, is there a way to highlight or draw attention to a ticket on the service board when an edit or an update is made or a note is left? I know when a customer responds, it is bolded, but I deal with internal tickets and struggle easily to see when an update is made. I know about the last update column, but it does not allow for quick recognition of an updated ticket. I know internally you can still use the customer's updated checkbox. You can manually ticket. That can give you a little extra visibility there. You could also play with status changes built into your process so that anytime someone makes an update, there's a waiting on internal or something like that, waiting on resource. That can also adjust where it sits in your sort order and kind of pull it up on the board a little bit. Also allows you to build views and things to specifically look for those tickets as you're trying to target them a little bit more. Outside of that, I don't really have a specific feature within PSA that's going to automatically make those tickets a little bit more apparent. Outside of potentially checking that box manually to get them bolded, I would probably try and pull some sort of a status change into that process to make it a little bit more apparent that, you know, an internal resource has updated this ticket and is now waiting on something particular. What exactly that looks like is obviously going to depend on your process. And for, again, for more in-depth answer on that, that might be something where we have you reach out to either partner success or consulting, depending on where you have time. Okay, Morgan is asking, when scoping new work, we currently use a service board labeled Design Desk. This is meant to track and scope work for the sake of projects, but becomes cumbersome when interacting with opportunities. Is there a simpler way to assign tasks against an opportunity for the sake of scoping new projects? I mean, activities are technically the go-to that I've seen for most opportunity work. They don't really convert into a project per se. I have had plenty of partners I've worked with use a scoping board essentially, and if the item doesn't end up going, you know, through the full sales process and becoming a project, a lot of times those tickets are just closed, they're considered internal cost, that type of thing. I have worked with a number of partners that if that does become a proper project, that scoping ticket is converted in, but it sounds kind of like this is a similar process to the one you're already using. But it's kind of the best that I've run into. Cindy, do you have any way that you've tracked scoping work like that?
I actually built it right into my skeleton project.
Okay, so you would start
So
with
that,
a project earlier.
yeah, so again, I just did it a little bit, you know, because I wanted to make sure that everybody was on board before the quote went out to the customer. So I built my skeleton project, which would have what we were going to do for our scoping. Our project opening section would
Okay.
have all of the things that we were going to do, and we book our time in it into that ticket. And then again, you know, following through, come up with exactly, you know, what we need to do, what is the budget, what would be the fixed fee we would charge for this project. And then I would put the status of the project in quoting. And then on a, you know, when we had our weekly project meeting, we just quickly say what's going on with these quotings. Have they, you know, are they still in process? You had a commitment here for this date. If this isn't signed by X, you're going to need to push it out a month based on some of the resource activities, and just kind of do a quick checkpoint of all the quoting ones. If it was not approved ultimately to move forward with that project, then yeah, you close it and it's an internal cost, but it's your cost of doing business, right? You're doing these quotes. If the project was approved, the quote went out, it was signed off, you're going to move ahead. Those additional hours were also included in your budget numbers because I budgeted for that time, because the business is still paying people to do that work. So I included it in my budget. When the opportunity is won, when you convert it into a project to get your fixed fees over and all your product, you just convert it into an existing project. Okay. So it'll just come in and it'll update your existing project, which already has your template in it to do your, you know, your work template, and it will then add your product, and then you just need to make an adjustment if it's fixed fee on your finance tab, and then you're good to go and execute.
Yeah, excellent. All right. VJ is asking for dispatch portals. There are only one custom team available. The challenge I face is to see teams that are already assigned to projects except for a custom team. I don't know if there's a way to see projects of existing projects. I have 3 projects I'm running and can't see the dispatch portal filtered by the predefined teams. Honestly, my favorite way to do that, and we'll see if I have a test one in here that's remotely worth taking too good of a look at, but within the work plan tab, the way that I always did that is if you go to, it's more. You go to more here and go to open dispatch portal, this pop-up is going to be auto-filtered to that specific project team. That I think is probably going to be the best way for you to do this without constantly building these custom teams. When you go to it from a project directly, it auto-filters that, it auto-filters that for you, which should get you around having to do those custom teams everywhere. So hopefully that's a little bit more helpful there. Colin has a question where we would like to start using Microsoft Project to plan and create scopes of work for our clients, as well as share with our clients. But we would also like to be able to import these project tags created in Microsoft Project into ConnectWise. There is already a utility out there. I don't think we deprecated it. It's been there for a long time. I don't know if it's gotten any updates in the 10 years I've been here. You should hopefully be able to find it in the university. Google Microsoft Project, quite frankly, or not Google, do the university search for Microsoft Project. It is fairly basic, and I can tell you that it does not necessarily pull everything in exactly the way that Project is. But that's where I would kind of take you. Within that, when you go to like, believe it would potentially be to like apply a template, you should be able to, or once upon a time you were able to import, maybe it was when you're creating a new project. I know that it was a feature that we had. My only concern was going to be, is it still around? It was not a heavily used one, and like I said, it did not bring in projects exactly the way that they look like in MS Project. So there could be some discrepancies there.
We still have that capability. We still have that capability. Yes.
Okay.
Probably yours might not be integrated or some problem, but you can import. And you can also even import a template inside a template, so it's even there. So
okay. Yeah. Steven's asking, when is the right time and what is the right method to add configurations to a project, especially when the configurations are newly purchased and not able to be imported from RMM or another monitoring platform? So, I mean, I feel like this one unfortunately becomes pretty subjective. It really is going to come down to how are you handling it, especially for devices, because of the information that it pulls in from a monitoring tool like that. I usually try and pull that stuff in after I've been able to get it added. Now, if you're tracking those across potentially multiple configurations, that could allow you to basically say, here's the piece that we do that's more manual information. That would be something that you'd probably do as part of the project for installation, as opposed to the specifics of the machine that come in as part of an RMM tool or some other monitoring tool like that. You potentially let flow in after they're actually deployed, would be the way that I'd probably handle that, particularly if you're talking about devices. Obviously, if it's software licenses or something like that, where you're not going to have a monitoring tool for it, as soon as you acquire them and know what the information is going to look like, I would probably start building configurations out there. It would potentially be, and Cindy, I'm sure you're probably going to nod your head at this one, I'd expect it to probably be a phase and potentially at least a ticket, if not multiples in my project.
Well, one of the things that you can do, which I just recently found out about, is that if you convert your opportunity to a sales order first, you can take those items in the sales order and convert them to configuration items. So it'll take those details, when it was purchased, who it was purchased by, whatever sort of details were in your purchasing, and add it into your configuration. And then you can go in and, for example, if it's a software license that has an expire in a year, you can then go in and put an expiry date in a year from when you've now purchased it. And then that way you can set up your workflows to alert you when that needs to be renewed. It doesn't stop you from then converting that into a project. So you can convert to a configuration and then go ahead and convert to a project. And that'll just get some of that manual work out of there for you.
Oh, very good. All right, so we are coming to the end of things. Unfortunately, we are going to pull your questions, and we'll be able to do what we can in terms of trying to get you some answers, trying to have some people reach out, see what we can do with anything that we were not able to get to today. I want to give everybody a strong reminder about the virtual community. They are going to be able to answer a number of questions for you here. That QR code is legitimate. We also showed you that like you can go into ConnectWise, it's under community there in the university. From there, you'll see virtual community. This one is specific to business management, which is going to be able to give you help with things like projects and finance and stuff like that, both in PSA, CPQ, those different items for you there. We also want to remind everybody that this is an ongoing web series. We do this every single Tuesday. We just rotate through a number of different topics there, but that QR code is also going to be able to help you to register for this so you can show up for future sessions. Other than that, we want to thank everybody for coming. I hope that you got something out of today's session. And like I said, we're going to do what we can with the questions we did not get to today, and we'll go from there. Hopefully everybody has a good one. And other than that, I think we're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye, everybody. Let the rest of my group say the same, and hopefully you have a great rest of the day.
Oh, thanks for joining. Bye. Have a wonderful day.